my talk today is called Why Are You Saying That? And I wanted to speak to you about communication with your staff. Now, there's an awful lot of research and talks you can look at and TED Talks about how to communicate better with your staff and how to have a smooth and effective set of communication channels with your staff that will help your business, help your school. I'm not going to talk to you about any of that. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something that's going to be much more helpful for you. And if you think about it, it's probably going to be a lot easier for you too. So this is what we're going to be looking at in the next half an hour. Okay? And this is the main thing we're looking at.
Хотите попробовать на практике инструменты создания образовательных продуктов? Присоединяйтесь к онлайн-курсу «Школа управления языковыми проектами». Регистрация на сайте dnschoolinfo.ru.
How to be a terrible communicator. This is a skill you've got to develop if you want to keep your staff really nervous, really uncertain, really on edge, really not knowing where they are. And I'm going to give you 7 tips of how to be a terrible communicator. Believe me, after this, you'll never look back. The first thing here, focus on weaknesses. Okay? This really underpins everything else that we're going to be talking about. This means that never say things like this, okay? Never say things like, oh, you did a really good job updating the CRM system. It's so much better now. Why would you say this? Never say, oh, your student feedback was great, well done. Or, oh, thanks so much for the work you did on the end of term play. You know, students loved it, parents loved it. You put in so much work. Don't say that. Say things like this. Still working on the CRM system? Well, the systems aren't really your strong point, are they? Yeah, feedback shows your students like you. I just kind of wonder, I mean, are they learning anything? Or do they just like you? Something to think about. Oh, you make with these students reports. You know, I guess you're tied up with that little thing you were doing with them. Anyway, I need them by the end of today. This is the kind of language you need to use. So your staff will be permanently nervous, permanently worried. They're never going to feel they're good enough. Okay? So take this as your starting point. Focus on their weaknesses. Okay? Now, what's the next one going to be? This goes against a lot of what you probably already heard and read and discussed, but it's so important. Ignore professional development. What do you care if they develop? Doesn't matter to you. Why are you going to pay for their development only to take it somewhere else and someone else gets the benefit? What's the point in that? So to ignore professional development, you need to do these things. Only focus on the job they were hired to do. That's got to be your focus. Don't let them get experimental or try to develop their role. Don't do that. Don't let them think there's any possibility of progression. You hired them to be front of house desk customer service. That's what you hired them for. That's what they do. They want to move up? No. They stay where you put them. Okay? If they persist in hoping for progression, and let's face it, some people do this, end the conversation. You're not entertaining that. You don't have time for that. Okay? So if you focus on weaknesses and you ignore professional development, the next stage should be quite easy for you. Okay? And this is point number 3 in this session of 7 steps, okay? Be unapproachable. Keep your distance. Very important. You've got to remind them how important you are. Not how important they are, how important you are. You can't do that if they feel they can come to you with any problems. So be unapproachable. And remember, you don't have time to discuss their work with them. You've got more important things to do. So don't have this open door policy of my door is open, please come to me. No, you haven't got time for that. If they make mistakes because they feel they can't ask you for help, whose fault is that? It's obviously not your fault. It's got to be their fault. And the sooner they realize that, the better, right? And they might email you. Don't rush to reply to their emails or their messages. You're very busy. They can wait. Yeah? So don't try and have this back and forth with your staff. Be unapproachable. If they make mistakes, that's fine. And a good way to establish this as well is to say to your staff, bring me solutions to problems. Well, of course, they can't do that, can they? So even more, they're nervous and they're worried. Okay. So we've had focus on weaknesses. We've had ignore professional development. We've had be unapproachable. So you've established yourself then at the center, at the top. It's not democratic. It's not egalitarian. Now, the next 2 steps that I'm going to share with you are quite tricky. But if you can get these right, you're well on the way to being a terrible communicator. Okay? So let's look at them and let's really think about these 2. Step 4.
Хотите попробовать на практике инструменты создания образовательных продуктов? Присоединяйтесь к онлайн-курсу «Школа управления языковыми проектами». Регистрация на сайте dnschoolinfo.ru.
Be uninvolved. Be uninvolved, yeah? Their job is theirs. You've already established they have no progression. They're only doing the job you hired them to do. Their job is theirs alone. You don't need to know what they're doing unless they mess up. They haven't got time for all this day-to-day stuff. So be uninvolved. And if they mess up, and they probably will, let's face it, you can step in and resolve the issue. That way they'll know who's really in charge. Because obviously they're going to mess up. Do not give them the opportunity to sort the problems out themselves. You don't want them to think that they can sort problems out. You want them to know the only person who can sort problems out is you. So, of course, with this, there's no need for regular meetings to see where they're going. I mean, that's not your business. You just want the end result. You don't want to support them through the process, have these regular one-to-ones, have these team meetings. Who has time? You don't care. You just want the end result. And if they mess up and you have to step in, do not, and this is a big one, do not offer support or training so they don't mess up next time. I mean, what are you? A charity? You're a business. If your people can't do the job you hired them to do, and remember they're only doing that job, they can go. Go somewhere else. Yeah? Now, have a little think about how easy it's going to be for you to be uninvolved. Yeah? You don't need to know what they're doing. You can step in and save the day. You will sort it out for them. Now, the next one is the killer one, okay? This is the one you really need to master if you want to be an Olympic standard terrible communicator. Be uninvolved and be too involved. How can I do these at the same time? You ask yourself. Now, it takes work on your part. But being uninvolved and being too involved, this is a great, great skill to master. Yeah? They won't know where they are, especially if you team this with number one, focus on weaknesses. They'll be nervous wrecks in no time, okay? So how do I become too involved? Question their decisions. Now, I'm not asking you to do this in the sense of asking them, what led you to think about this? Or, okay, talk me through your ideas here. Or, okay, great decision. What made you come up with this? I'm not talking about questions like that. Who asks questions like that? I'm talking about questions like, well, what's this about? Oh, change the whole assessment system, really? That's the sort of question. Question it even if you agree with them, it will keep them permanently on edge, nervous, they won't know what they're doing, okay? On top of this, focus on small details which are probably unimportant. Now, if you do this right, it'll mean they mess up more, even more on the bigger issues. And then, as we saw before, you'll have to step in and save the day. You know? So that will keep them firmly in their place. That's what we want. Regularly ask for progress reports and written summaries. This will take time away from the main task. That'll increase their stress levels. Result: a nervous, stressed, confused staff who you've told you don't want to be involved, but then you're jumping on them for minor details. Fantastic. And one little top tip here. If you're focusing on small details, send them an email about these details, or perhaps also pulling in one or two weaknesses from point one. Send this email at the end of your working day on Friday. That means they have the whole weekend to worry about it, stress about it, feel nervous about it. So when they come into work on Monday, that's their frame of mind: nervous, worried, and stressed. That's what we want. Yeah? Now, point 6. Be pessimistic. Come on. Optimism, positive thinking, very overrated. Never look on the bright side. Your glass is always half empty, as far as they're concerned. Pessimistic leaders damage employee morale. Who cares about their morale? You only care about your morale. So being pessimistic will depress your staff. Excellent. Don't give them time to brainstorm possible solutions, to problems, to issues, to shake your head and look depressed. A lot of bad communicators use the head in the hands technique, sometimes one hand, sometimes two hand. This is a good power move, but don't overuse it. Okay? So occasionally you can shake your head and just look depressed, or shake your head and put your head in your hands. Yeah, they'll soon get the idea. Make it very clear that you hadn't expected them to succeed anyway. Be regretful. I mean, you don't expect anything from your staff, do you? So obviously you're not going to manage it. Think of yourself as being like a really bad parent. Nothing's going to make you happy. If you do this well enough, your staff will do anything to make you happy, even if it makes them miserable. And my last point is be passive aggressive. Provide conflicting feedback. Say to one team member, this is okay, and to the other team member, this isn't acceptable. That way, nobody in the team knows where they are. Or you can say, this is okay, and this isn't acceptable to the same person, even on the same day. That way, they will know where they are. Keep them guessing. Blame the staff member if there's a problem. I think it's obviously their fault. I mean, we've established that, right? So blame the staff member. And if you're absolutely at the top of your game, you will blame the staff member in front of other people. Not taking them into your office to talk to them, but in a public place. So everybody is frightened of when that brick is going to drop on their head. Do not ever, ever think how you're going to phrase your feedback. Yeah? Just be direct. Just say what you think. Be as harsh as you like. Yeah? Don't worry about how what you say is going to impact them. Yeah? Just come out with it. Further confuse them by asking, are you okay? After your feedback, they will know where they are. They're already confused. Okay, so I'm just taking you back through these just so you can think about these in relation to your own management style and how to really work on being a terrible communicator. Okay, so focus on weaknesses, ignore professional development, be unapproachable, be uninvolved, but the tricky balance, be too involved. So micromanagement, macromanagement, keep them both together. Be pessimistic, even when they're doing well, because obviously you're not going to let them know they're doing well. So pessimism must be a consistent emotion. And be passive aggressive. Okay? If you can master these skills, then I would say you're well on your way to being a terrible communicator. And that will give you the organizational culture and staff feeling that everybody is looking for. Nervous, stressed, underappreciated, and never knowing that you're doing well enough. Now, if you want more tips and ideas like this for your own future development, do not join this course. This course isn't going to give you anything like the practical tools I've just given you. It's going to talk about how to develop your staff, how to develop your business, how to satisfy your clients. So if that's what you're looking for, join that course. But if you want more ideas like mine, forget this course. It's not for you. Thank you, and I hope I've communicated well to you how to be a terrible communicator.
Хотите попробовать на практике инструменты создания образовательных продуктов? Присоединяйтесь к онлайн-курсу «Школа управления языковыми проектами». Регистрация на сайте dnschoolinfo.ru.